Hello friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. My name is Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to talk about how to apply custom requirements to our policy-based authorization in .NET 8 Web API. I have already made a video on how to implement policy-based, that is a basic one, to Web API. And the video link is in the description, so if you haven't checked that one out, please check the video description. It is over there. This video is going to be the continuation of the previous one. We've built our authentication system already, so we're going to implement the custom requirement on the policy authorization that we started in the previous video. I would also combine these two videos to make it one for you. So you can also check the video description and you have the link in there if you haven't watched the previous one. The source code of this project will be available, so check the video description if you want to grab it and review. Let's quickly go through what we did in the last video so we can continue on. So you can see that we have an endpoint in here. User can now create account, can now log in, and within the list, single and then home endpoint here, it is for all users. Either you are administrator, you're manager, or you are user, because you have a default or a general policy for them. And the policy combines all the three roles that we have. Single is for only administrator and manager. List is for administrator and manager as well. So you can see that user can access only this home page and also single page. But user cannot have access to list page. The same thing applies to manager. He cannot have access to single page, but he can have access to list and then home. We're able to do that based on the policies that we defined in here. So you can see that we have a policy added, manager, admin, user, and anybody who has this or any component who has this policy implemented. If you want to get access to that component, you must first be authorized. Aside from that, you must have a role. Any of these roles, you must have one. The same thing applies to this admin manager and our admin user. Okay, that's what we did. So in this, we're going to implement our custom requirement. Now within this, this is a web API, so definitely we're going to generate token. So when generating token, we make sure we add the claims of the user, and here we add the rows as well. So the row is a claim that we add to form the token, and now when it gets to the client, we can do that. We can consume it and use these claims in showing and hiding components. Maybe this one, we're going to talk about that one later on. But for now, let's focus on how to create the custom requirement. Now, we see that from our endpoint that we have in here, user can have access to this single or home page. But let's say this home page that we have in here, we want to make sure anybody or any user who is going to have access to this home page should be greater or equal to 18 years. That is our requirement. A person who must have access to in the form of user. Not talking about manager, not talking about admin. Talking about the user who is going to access this content should be greater or equal to 18. So if you are lesser than that, then we are not going to allow you to access this endpoint. So in such case, what are you going to do? The user must first be authenticated. Second, the user must be in an user role. And now third, the user's age must surpasses what? 18 or equal to 18. That is why we need this. Alright, so let's have a look on how to create this. So first of all, what you do here is when you check our solution, we created a project web API with minimal endpoint, API endpoint. So you can see that when you check our DB context, we are using identity manager straightforward here. Now when you check the properties or the properties this class has, it does not have date of birth. So we need to create an extended class, and we need to extend this identity user so we can add a property of our choice. Maybe I can decide to add date of birth, but you can decide to add name, date of birth, and etc. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to create a class for this data folder, and this is going to be app user. So this app user class is going to inherit from identity user. And after it gets inherited, we're going to add one property, and it's going to be date time. And I'm going to say this is date of birth. So I'm adding one property for now. Let's save this. We have to copy this. We go to our solution. Then in our DB context class, instead of this identity user, no, we are going to use this app user. We go to our program.cs, and that's where we have our endpoint specified. So instead of injecting identity user, hey, do the right thing. We specify this app user. Okay, so we have this. We are done. Now here, when it comes to this side, you can see we are creating instance of this new user. So this means that we have to, where we have our models, we are not having any model here. We receive them as a parameter from the endpoint. And now when we receive them, we are going to create a new identity user. So here, this won't be identity user. It's rather going to be app user. Okay, so you create new app user. Then here we can specify date of birth. And when you do this, it means we have to add date of birth. Okay, so in order to make this nice looking, why don't we put this in a component in a class? Yes, let's actually do that. So I'm going to create a class in here, or maybe I can add folder to this, and I'll name this as models. Now with this, I'm going to add a class in here, and this class is going to be, let's say, register model. So in this, we need, this can be a record. So maybe here, we're going to need string email. We need string password, or let's have row first. String password, or let's use date of birth. So date time, and that is date of birth. And then we have string password. Okay, so these are the properties we need in this register model. Now let's grab this model. Let's go to our program. Then we can clear all of this from here and create an instance of this model. We need to include a reference of this. So likewise, you can do the same to the login. Now with this model, instead of using this, we're going to say that model.email, model.password, then the same model.email again for the username or for this actual email, and our date of birth, model.date of birth. So we have this. Now with this, we need to check this model.email. So we can grab this here. Now model.password, we need this one. You see? And now here, this is what we're going to do. Since we have the properties in here already set, we can use model.email for this one. Then model.row. So we have a row here, and we need to add one more. So duplicate this, and now here we can have a claim type of date of birth. So we can implement the date of birth here. So we have our claims created, and there we are. Since this is date, we need to convert this to string since the type of this claim is string. we need to convert this to string. Okay, so Control KD, we can save this peacefully with no issue. Okay, so that's all that we need to do. And now when it gets to this, we getting claims of user. What is an issue here? I cannot convert from identity user to yes. So it means app user. That's right. And I think, and here identity user should be an app user instead. Yes. And that is all. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to apply migration. So I'm going to delete the old one that we did. Then let's build this project. Once it's succeeded, let's go in there and apply migration. Once it's done, we need to update the database. Yes, and it is done now. So what we're going to do here next is to create our custom requirement. So in this case, I'm going to add a folder in here. Now, custom requirement comprises of two classes that we need to create. One is for the requirement and one is for the handler. The handler is going to implement it. So it's like using CQRS. We have a handler, we have a requirement class, and we have an implementation class. That is a handler. Okay. So let's see. This is custom requirement. So let's create a requirement. So you create a class, and I will say minimum age requirement. And now with this minimum age requirement, all that we need to do here is to inherit from authorization requirement. And now we need to specify the property. So we need only year. You want to find the year. So how old, maybe the age. And I think that the best thing is to use age instead, not year. Yes. So it skipped me. I used the same year in the the previous ones. Okay, so let's say this is age. Okay, now we have age and it's inheriting from this. That's one thing that we need to do. We need to specify your parameter. And that is it. Okay, so now we are done with this. We need to create our handler. The handler is going to implement this. So let's go to the same solution. Let's right click on this, then add a new class. And it's going to be minimum age handler. So first thing, this has to inherit from authorization handler. And in that, you're going to implement the class. We pass in a minimum age requirement class that we created. So first of all, what we're going to do here is we're going to check if the user is authenticated, or if it is not, return. Because before we implement, we check for this. We make sure the user is authenticated. Aside from that, we want to check, does the user have a claim known as date of birth? If he doesn't, then return. We want to skip that. So let's say here he does have. Then what we're going to do here is we want to get the claim type of date of birth value. We pass it on to datetime since it's the string format. Then we want to check, is the age, so let me use age instead. Is the age greater than or equal to 18? So if so, then we want to set context.succeed and we pass in the requirement. Then at the end of the day, it's going to return. So if the user's age is lesser than that, it's going to return. It's going to execute this, and in this case, it's going to be unauthorized. Okay, it returns maybe green light when this method or this line of code get executed. Else, it's going to be red light. Yes, unauthorized. Okay, so that is all that we need to do in here. Let's save our work. What you do again is you go to our program.cs file, and on the handler that we created, we have to register this handler. So how do we do it? Go to program.cs file, and now where we have our registration before the build, let's register our handler in here. So builder.services.add authorization, and this is an interface we specify in our created handler in there. Okay, so the next to do here is to implement this requirement, and in order to do that, you want to assign, or you want to check or apply this requirement to only user. Okay, user and admin. So all content that admin can access, that user can access, the user's age must be greater than 18. So in order to do that, greater or equal to, let me make this point clear. So we say that policy or o.requirement.add, we create an instance, new instance of the requirement class that you created. We pass in our age. So this is 18, so 18 years, and that is what you want the user to get up to before he can get access to this. And now when you have a look to our endpoint, we have this, from the get, we have from the home, there's a home route, and our admin, manager, user. So before user can have access to this, user must be greater or equal to 18. The same thing applies to single. You can see from here it is admin user. So user must be 18 or more before he can get access to these two endpoints. Now let's run this application. We're going to create user, and I'm going to sign in, and I'll check it out. So the app is ready. Let me increase the size in here. Okay, but before we do this, we have to go to our section. Let's go to our requirement handler, and now in here we want to check here, so we can put a breakpoint to this. Maybe you have the user in here, so we can put a breakpoint in here and check it out. Or yes, maybe here we can check it. So let's put a breakpoint from this, and here too we can do same. Okay, so let's go in there and I register an account. So we're going to create users. So let's try this out. And for email, this is admin@admin.com. The row is admin, and our date of birth, we have it already. So this is going to be, let's maintain what we have, the default one, and I'm going to say 1978. The password is admin@123. Let's click on create to create this user. So created. Now let's add manager. And the row is manager as well. Now date of birth, we can say this is 1999. So it also created. Now let's create user. Now for user, we said it is 2020. So that the age will be lesser than 18. So let's execute this. Also created. So now we're going to log in. Let's log into this. We pass in our first, let's check our admin@admin.com. Now the password here is admin@123. Let's log in. We have our token. Let's grab our token, and in here we authorize it. So let's authorize it, close it. Now let's go to the first endpoint, list. User must have access to the list. Yeah, so we have admin and manager only can have access. That's fine. That's working. Now I want to check for single. So you can see here our breakpoint is hit. If I click on continue, now you want to check the age. You can see the age is 46.46. So it means that it's going to execute this. Click on continue, and now it's been executed. So it tells you that the user can have access to this endpoint. So admin and user only. Okay, now the last one is a general one, so everyone can have access to this. Yes. Let's check for manager as well. So let's go to login. And now with this, we're going to make it manager. Let's log in. Grab the manager's token. Then authorize. Let's log out. Log in again. And let's check this out. So for list, manager still have access. Single, execute. We check it up. Now what is the age in here? It's 25. Good. So now this also returns success. And now, okay, so this returns what? 403. Because although the age is greater, when we check our program, there is admin manager policy. Right. So admin and manager policy. And now when we have a look to our endpoint, this endpoint that we have, single, is for admin user policy. So manager does not have access to this. So when it runs this requirement is going to pass. What are the requirement? This requirement, admin user policy. This requirement, okay, this requirement is going to be passed because the user is not authenticated. And now the row here, it is what? Admin manager. That's fine. That is when it's admin manager policy. When it gets to admin user policy, the row must be in the manager must have one of the row, but the manager's row is not found here. Although the manager shows green light to this because the age is 25. This is passed. This also passed. But when you get to this one, it did not pass. Yeah, so that's the reason why we have 403. It's forbidden. So manager cannot have access to that endpoint. Okay, now let's go in and check for the next one, the home, for general one. So he must have access to it. Yes. Let's sign this out and now sign in the user. That is what we are much concentrated on. So we're going to log in. Then this is user. Execute this. Let's grab the user token. Let's log out and then log in again. So now we are logged in as user. Let's go to the list. Execute this. We won't have access because that policy, it is admin and manager only. We go to single. Click on execute. Our breakpoint is hit. Click on continue. The age is 4. So let's see. Is it going to execute this? Continue. No, it didn't. And let's see. So here we have 403 as forbidden. So when you check our policy that we created a definition for that policy, you can see that here, that is this one, admin user policy. Admin is authenticated and that's fine. Admin, no, not the admin, user is authenticated and that's fine. User is in one of these rows, user row, that's fine. When it gets the last one, does user have age greater or equal to 18? And that is no. So in this case, it won't proceed. All this must get satisfied before this policy can be utilized or can show green light to the person. So if any of these get red light, tells you that no, this is going to work. And that's the same thing that we experience in here. So you can see that our custom requirement is working and we've been able to achieve what we wanted. Yes, so that is it for this video. I think you've learned something, isn't it? Yes, all right. So thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'm going to catch up again in the next one. And till then, take care.